Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Trainer Talk. Today, we're going to be debunking some fitness myths. It's episode 22, and we're going to start out with just some of the common myths when it comes to reaching your fitness goals, whether it's weight loss, muscle growth, anything like that. We're going to try to cover it to help you guys get better results. So we'll start out. Bethany is going to go through a couple of the common myths. We'll just kind of go back and forth like we normally do, and hopefully give you guys as much information as we can.
So first one real quick is spot reducing fat. I hear it literally all the time. People ask me, oh, how can I, lose this fat on my back or lose some from midsection or the arms? And biggest thing is calorie deficit. You have to be eating less calories than you're burning. That's the only way you're gonna burn fat. It's not a certain exercise, it's not a certain supplement. I mean, some supplements can help, but if you're not in a calorie deficit, then it's just not gonna happen. And calories are taken from your fat stores, which are all over your body. It's not going to preferentially take it just from your stomach or just from your arms. It's going to take it from all over. There are a little bit of changes depending on blood flow. So you tend to lose fat faster in your arms and legs because you're moving them more. And when you get better blood flow to those areas, you can burn fat a little bit faster there. But when it comes to your midsection, that's where people tend to they see it a little bit slower, just because we're not moving with as much repetitions as our arms and our legs. So that's why people naturally have leaner forearms, leaner calves. They have a lot less fat stores there. It's also for survival. It's a little bit more advantageous because they can get away faster if you have less fat in your arms and your legs. They climb the tree better because if you have fat in those areas, it kind of slows you down. So it's been survival. When it comes to survival, it's better that way. And so it's pretty much we're just working against our survival and our genetics in that way of how we evolved as humans. But basically, how to reduce fat, and you're going to take it from everywhere. You can't control where it comes from, how, and how fast, but it's just from a calorie deficit. That's the main thing.
So when you say calorie deficit, we typically mean about 500 calorie deficit is typically where we want to see clients. So if you're burning 2,500 calories in a day, you're going to want to eat around 2,000 calories. And if you burn more, you can afford to eat a little bit more. If you burn less, you're going to want to eat a little bit less. But once you get further away from that 500, if you're 1,500 calories under, then your body's going to kind of go into that starvation mode. Like she said, we're genetically the same as we were 2,000 years ago. So your body's going to slow down the metabolism and all that kind of stuff, the processes, so that you can hang on to the body fat and the nutrients in your system. So you want to make sure that you're kind of in that sweet spot of about 500 to 1,000, no more than 1,000 calorie deficit. The opposite is true if you're trying to gain size. Then you're going to want to go a 500 to 1,000 calorie surplus. And if you want to maintain, just eat the same amount of calories. And just to add to that, so a common thing that we hear a lot is okay, I've been doing 100 sit-ups every day, but I'm not losing my belly fat. And that is because you can't actually target that specific area. Like she said, it's all just going to depend on eating a little bit less than you're intaking, and over a sustained period of time, you're going to lose the fat where it is. It might just come off in other areas first, like she said. But with that being said, if you can build stronger and bigger muscles whatever area you want to lose fat in, muscle does help burn calories, so it will help keep the fat off in the long run. So after you do get the fat off, it'll actually be easier to keep it off because you've built that strength in muscle. So it's not a bad thing to be doing 100 sit-ups, but at the same time, it's not going to be directly turning that fat into muscle, which is another one of the myths that one of these guys, if you want to cover it, you're going to cover that one. So she will talk about that one. You can't actually turn fat to muscle and vice versa. So go ahead.
Yeah. So some people say oh, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I've got all this fat, but I'm just going to turn this fat into muscle through working out. Or if I stop working out, my muscle's going to turn into fat and I'm going to get all flabby. This also doesn't work. Same thing if you try to turn an apple into an orange, it paint it orange, it's still an apple. You can't, switch them because genetically and molecularly, so like their basic building blocks of what they're made of, they're completely different. Fat is basically storing energy. It's like a potato, but for your body, if that makes sense. Plants, they store energy in the form of carbs, and potatoes in the root, and that's basically our storage mechanism for our bodies, is we store our energy, excess energy, in the fat. So it's like our gas tank, if that makes more sense for some people. And then muscles is basically what helps make us move, and it's just a part of our pretty much like daily function. We use it for just moving around, anything like that, holding your body together. It's what holds your skeleton together and upright. So they're two different things. Like, just like I said, comparing apples to oranges, you can't make one turn into another. You can build muscle and you can burn fat, but you can't turn into each other, right? And then another common myth is that you can burn more fat on an empty stomach. So a lot of people will do like fasted cardio and think that they're burning more fat, or they'll come in to do a strength training and think that they're going to just build muscle and like burn fat that way. But it's actually been shown through studies that you don't burn more fat, because while in the exercise, it actually takes you like anywhere from 1 to 2 hours for your body to actually start using fat as fuel. And then after that, throughout the day, you actually tend to burn less fat compared to like if you ate before you work out. So it's actually like better if you eat before you work out, at least just like a little something to fuel like your exercise, because you can hit it with more intensity. You're not breaking down as much muscle for energy, and then you actually have better sustained fat burning throughout the day versus if you worked out fasted. So that's another kind of common myth that we see or have people do, just thinking that they're going to burn more fat that way. Another one is carbs make you fat, or fat makes you fat. Apparently no one thinks protein's going to make you fat, but actually it can if you eat too much. If you eat too much chicken breast, which is pretty hard to do, then you will actually gain fat because you're eating in a calorie surplus. If you eat in a calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight, which is usually in the form of fat or some muscle, something to that effect. And the saying of like carbs make you fat or fat makes you fat, it's just not true. It's the calorie surplus. So if you overeat carbs or you overeat fat, then yeah, you're going to gain weight, but it's not specifically those things that do it. Carbs are actually really good for helping with fat loss because it helps your body's metabolism actually improve, because it's your body's preferred fuel source, and it helps to fuel the muscles, which, like Taylor had said, having more muscles helps you hold on to like your results longer and keep fat off longer. And then fat's of course important for hormones and overall health. So when people kind of demonize both of those, it's good to not overeat those things, but it's important to know like that they're not inherently bad.
So when people say like, oh, I did a low carb diet and I really lost a lot of weight, it's probably just because they reduced their total calorie intake because they're not eating as much carbs. It wasn't necessarily because they ate less carbs. It's just because in total, they probably ate less than they were. So they're in a calorie deficit. Same thing with low fat. If you did a low fat diet and you lost weight, it's just because you're intaking less total calories. It's not just because you cut out fat. So we actually suggest getting a balanced diet of carbs, fats, proteins. That way you're fueling your body, you're balancing your hormones with the fats, you're recovering and building muscle with protein, and then you're just going to feel better overall. But with that being said, we're in a little bit of a calorie deficit among those 3 macronutrients in order to lose the weight if that's your goal. So, Kayla, what do you have?
Just to like kind of on the carbs thing really quick, just from like personal experience, a year ago when I had to cut out a bunch of food for like my digestive issues, I wasn't getting in a lot of carbs just because I literally couldn't. I just had to cut out the foods for a little while, and I just remember feeling so tired. Like I was just so low on energy every single day. It was hard to get through my workouts because carbs really are your biggest energy source, so you don't want to completely cut those out. That's just a little side note. But so the first one that I have is as a female, lifting makes you bulky or look like a man. This is not true. Like, yes, you will see females out there who are bodybuilders who may look bulky to you, but they probably are eating a ton of food. They're probably taking supplements. They are getting somehow extra testosterone in them. But just as a regular female, eating a balanced diet, you are not going to get bulky no matter how heavy you lift. I actually had a client who showed me this video of a heavier set female, and she was pressing 55 dumbbells for a chest press. And my client told me, she's like, I want to be able to do this, but I don't want to look like that. Like, I'm afraid of looking like that. I told her, I said, I've never tried pressing the 55 dumbbells, but I know that I could easily press the 50s for reps. And I am 5'3" and 125 pounds. So obviously with this other female who was heavier set, her nutrition is playing a role, all sorts of things. It's not the lifting that is making her a bigger girl. So we do not want you to think that, like, I probably don't lift super heavy, but I lift heavier than probably a lot of females, and I know Bethany lifts really heavy, and I don't think either of us look manly or bulky in any way, shape, or form. We're strong, but we're not manly. So we don't want you guys to think that. Another one is traditional cardio is the only way to lose fat. This is not true. Calorie deficit, that is how you're going to lose fat, and we will say that until the day that we die. You have to be in a deficit. You can do as much cardio as you want, you can run as many miles as you want, but if you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose fat.
Just to add to that real quick, so like when she says, like a lot of people think they want to go out there and run, or whatever, go on the treadmill for an hour or two, try to burn as many calories as you can. All you're really doing is burning energy. You're not burning fat directly. And if you're already in a calorie deficit, if you're not eating enough, and then you're doing all this extra cardio, you can actually reverse your results. You actually can store more fat or burn a lot more muscle, and that's often why you see like a ton of runners often are very lean, like almost have less muscle definition than somebody that just does an average amount of cardio and lifts weights. Is probably because they actually will burn a little bit of muscle because they're doing such long durations of cardio. So don't think that you have to do cardio on top of cardio on top of cardio. Oftentimes, we've actually told our clients to reduce the amount of cardio they're doing because they're not eating enough. So if their body's burning 2,000 calories a day on its own, and they're only eating 1,500, they don't need to do 1,000 calorie long run or anything to burn that extra, because that's just going to put them into too much of a deficit, and everything they eat beyond that point is actually going to be slowed down and stored. So just wanted to add that on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so really what cardio means heart. So cardio is just working out your heart. It's challenging your cardiovascular system. And that is what it's made for. It's not made to lose fat. It's made to challenge your heart, which is important. We challenge all of our muscle groups, and your heart is a muscle, so that needs to be challenged. But we don't want you to look at it as, oh, I'm doing cardio to lose fat or lose weight. No, you're doing cardio to work your heart muscle, because that's what's important. And you can do like all sorts of different cardio. You don't have to do running. You don't have to ride a bike. You can row. You can do HIIT workouts. You can lift really heavy for reps. That gets your heart rate up to a cardio zone.
The definition of cardio really is just elevating your heart rate to a certain zone for a sustained period of time. So you can literally do anything, and it can be considered cardio if your heart rate is elevated for that time. I can tell you, doing like super heavy back squats, if I have a limited amount of rest with a really heavy weight, I am doing cardio, lifting, doing 2 reps of back squats consecutively for 10 minutes. I am doing 10 minutes of cardio because my heart rate is elevated the whole time. So cardio does not automatically mean running, biking, swimming, whatever. It's basically just anything that elevates your heart rate. So don't think that if you're just lifting weights that you're not getting the cardio benefit or burning calories, I guess. because you definitely are, especially the biggest recommendation I could give if you do want to get that benefit from lifting weights is like limiting your rest or setting a specific rest time. I can't tell you how many people work out in the gym and they'll do a set and then they'll have a conversation with somebody and then it's been 10 minutes and then they do another set and they go back and forth. So they're not getting any benefit cardio-wise from that. So if you set some rest in between your sets of your resistance training, that's going to give you an amazing benefit of your heart and you're doing resistance training at the same time.
Yeah. Like I know, like most of us do some sort of cardio every single day, whether it's their metcons or I like to do either high intensity or I just lift heavier with minimal breaks. That's usually how I like to do my workouts, and it's not because I'm trying to lose weight. It's just my way of challenging my heart muscle, and I know that I'm eating enough to do that. So yeah, cardio is one of those weird things that, you know, we think, oh, we're doing cardio to lose fat. No, you're doing cardio to challenge your heart muscle. You lose fat by being in a calorie deficit.
And the only reason that you, I guess, would want to try to do cardio to burn a bunch of calories is if you were eating way too much. It's the only really reason. If you're eating 3,000 and you only need 2,000, then you do want to get 1,000 calories burned through your exercise. So that's the only reason. So our recommendation is just figuring out how many calories you need, try to put yourself in a deficit. If it needs to be a deficit with your exercise, then so be it. If you eat 2,000 and your body recommends 2,000, but then you burn 500 through your exercise, you're in a 500 calorie deficit. So that would be a way to build in your cardio. So it all is going to depend on your calorie intake. Another thing I can add to that is if I'm trying to build a bunch of muscle and I'm doing all the heavy lifting possible, but I'm in a 500 calorie deficit, I'm not going to gain a bunch of muscle. I'm actually probably going to stay the same because your muscles require that calorie to build. So I would actually have to be in a calorie surplus along with my strength training in order to gain muscle. And most of the females that we train are normally in a calorie maintenance or calorie deficit. So even with all that really heavy lifting, you're not going to just gain a bunch of big muscles. You're going to gain strength and you can build some lean muscle tissue, but it's not going to get huge and bulky. Like she said in the beginning, those women that are really, really huge, they are on a very strict nutrition plan, very strict workout protocol, probably supplementation, and honestly, if being blunt, most bodybuilders, women's physique, are taking some kind of testosterone or growth hormone or steroid as well. So just understand that.
Just a little analogy to tack onto that is with, you know, the fear of getting bulkier, like in order to build muscle and like when you're lifting heavy, it's like you can't build a house without the material, and protein and carbs and all that is the material, the building blocks
the foundation
for muscle, and just kind of like putting those two together. Like you can't build a house without the materials, you can't build a muscle without the protein and carbs.
Yeah. And just for a percentage standpoint, like testosterone production, women do make it, men do make it. Men take about 10 times, make about 10 times the testosterone as women. And it's hard enough for us to gain muscle, let alone you guys. So if you think that you're going to get huge off lifting for 2 weeks, that's almost like offensive to us. Me and Austin have been doing this for like, what, a few years, and we're nowhere near bodybuilder size. I mean, so if it's hard enough for us to get huge and bulky, it's definitely going to be a lot harder. You don't have to worry about getting huge and bulky. You can definitely get lean and strong, but you just don't have the testosterone production to gain that girth and size like men do, and it's hard enough for us, so don't worry about it. Austin, what do you got?
All right. Well, you guys brought up a lot of good points. That, like most of the stuff I had written down was you guys had too. So it's good that we're all kind of on the same page here. So a few though that I hear from clients. One of the main ones I hear is like, I'm not sore, so that means I didn't work hard enough. Soreness is a really, really poor indicator of your training intensity, and it's not always like how hard you work, you have to, or you're going to get sore. It's kind of how much your muscles have adapted to that certain exercise or whatever it may be. And like if you do a new exercise, you're going to be sore in a different way. So it's kind of a poor indicator. I would say trying to track and journal your workouts, or at least somewhat track and keep track of the weights you lifted for the amount of reps, that's a way better way of seeing your progress, not soreness. I know I have a few clients myself that they're like, oh, I'm sore like after we have a workout, I'm sore today, like I feel amazing. I'm like, you honestly, like, I need to pull you back a little bit. You shouldn't be sore every time after we work out. That's like, it's not a great thing. It can feel good, and it is like sometimes an indicator that you worked hard, but it's not the greatest way to kind of track your progress. So soreness is not a great indicator, so don't listen to that. Another one I would say that's common that I hear, and I personally thought for a long time until I took a program, was that you had to have your protein shake or big protein meal within like 30 minutes to an hour after a workout. Even in Bethany, before we were recording, said timing of your food is what, 5%? 5% of like,
10%.
or 10%? Yeah, it's a small portion of the importance of you must get the protein, carbs, and fats, your balanced meals, and calories within a day. The timing isn't a huge, doesn't play a huge role. So I would say that's one that's pretty common, a myth. And then another one, this more comes from like the women in lifting and health and fitness, is that you have to lift lighter reps or lighter weight for higher reps to get toned. Getting toned is essentially building muscle, and being within the 3 different phases of training, which the power phase, the hypertrophy phase, the endurance phase, those are all great to work in at different times. Staying in one is really not going to do you much benefit. It might if you do it for 4 weeks, and then you have to take like a deload week and then go into a different training phase. Kind of switching it up, and your body has to adapt to a new training phase. That's the best way to get toned and build muscle. I would say, other than that, though, you guys covered pretty much everything I wanted to. I think another one that people think a lot too is like eating carbs after 6 p.m. or eating any meals after 6 p.m. is going to get you fat. Like, I'm gonna say it again. It doesn't matter if you eat more carbs or more calories. It's the calories in versus calories out, that calorie expenditure, that really matters. So if you're below what you should be, then you're gonna lose weight. If you're above what you should be, then you're gonna gain weight. That's the simplest way to put it. So I mean, I feel like there's a lot of fitness myths, and I don't know where they come from. I don't know if it's just from being uneducated, because I know, like I said, I believed in a couple of these before I took my training class, and before I met with you guys and we've talked about things. Like, it's easy to kind of fall victim or fall into these traps of what you see online, and that just goes to show you shouldn't believe everything you see, and you shouldn't believe everything you hear. You should always do your own research and listen to people that are really, really educated in certain fields. So.
Kind of like, to somewhat answer your question, it's like where the myths come from. It's like typically there's like a breakthrough study that comes out, and scientists get kind of like excited about it, but it hasn't been, peer reviewed, and it hasn't been replicated, so it's not hardcore. It could just be one study with 10 people where like it's not as reliable as multiple studies over years with a wide demographic of people. And sometimes they'll let loose certain results they get, and then the media latches onto it.
I was gonna say, social media is probably the best.
Yeah. Or like a certain fitness influencer, something that works for them doesn't necessarily work for everyone.
Right.
So if they don't have like qualifications, like if they're not like a dietitian or nutritionist, or if they don't have a very accomplished like background of nutrition coaching, or working with athletes, or just helping people like see results, then that's like a big thing too. And then another thing to kind of add on, you mentioned a little bit with like meal timing and like 30 minutes after a workout having to get protein in. That's actually like another kind of myth that you brought up, which protein is not actually the most important thing to get after a workout. It's actually carbs. Carbs with protein is optimal, and mostly fast digesting, which that means when you eat it, it's absorbed into the body really fast. So that would be like your protein powder, and then like something like Gatorade or something that is gonna spike your insulin and be absorbed into the body really fast. And the big thing with this is, if you just drink protein, like you just have your protein shake, your body's actually going to use that protein for energy rather than using it to build and repair the muscles that you're just working to work out. So instead of, going to what you want it to do and help build muscle and help make you stronger, you're just burning it for energy. But if you add carbs with it, you have like a banana, or if you have some sort of like carb powder that you add with your protein shake, it's going to use the carbs as energy because your body prefers carbs as its energy source, and it'll actually then use the protein to build your muscle because it's been satisfied for that energy need, and then it can actually use that protein as what you want it to be used for.
And you probably have heard that like chocolate milk is a good post-workout drink, and that's because it's got like a 2-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. So like you said, you're using that carb to replenish and use it as energy, and then it does have a good amount of protein in it as well to help with repairing muscles. So if you've ever heard that, that would be why. So try to have some carbs plus protein after a workout. It's not going to be make or break. Like you want to try to get some food in the system within an hour. So like we said earlier, it's only a small percentage, but every percentage does count. And if you're going to put in the work and the energy or the effort to getting results, you want to actually maximize your results. So if you are going to do a post-workout recovery shake or whatever, make sure it's got protein and carbohydrates in it. Is basically these things. So, yeah. So we've covered a lot of different things: spot targeting, lifting makes you bulky, or lifting lightweight, high reps is the only way to get toned muscle without getting bulky. That's not the case either. We've covered nutrient timing, eating low carb, low fat in order to lose weight, doing a ton of cardio to lose body fat. Just covered a lot of different things. Hopefully we've helped you guys come up with ways to maybe adjust your training or adjust your nutrition to open you guys up to a better understanding of what it actually takes to lose body fat or whatever your goal is. If you have any questions, obviously reach out and we will answer any questions you have. If you need help with nutrition or with workouts, finding out how many calories you need, how many grams of proteins, carbs, and fats, if you need a nutrition plan, we all coach clients in nutrition and in fitness. We don't follow any kind of low carb, low fat diet. We don't have anything specific because, like Bethany said, everybody's different. Everybody needs different nutrient intakes and things like that, and people have different preferences. So like Caitlin can't have certain foods, so she's going to have something different than I will have. So we try to work with each client individually and create a nutrition plan that's kind of custom for them, teach them the habits that they need to reach their goals. That way they know exactly what they need to do on a daily basis, and they don't have to do any kind of quick fixes or these fad diets that you hear about all the time. So with that being said, is there anything else that you guys want to add, or is it wrapping up? Okay, so until next time, have an awesome day, and if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out, and we'll see you soon. Later.